ti elevate. Ori mi kò lè hibernate. Àwọn bá.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Two Brothers channel. I'm one brother.
Hello, everybody, and I'm the second brother. Welcome to this channel. Back to you, Mr. Phil.
Hey, we're back. Some of you will be thinking, where did they go? We didn't go anywhere, actually. What it is that actually we've not recorded for three or 4 weeks, actually. And but you may not actually even notice because we've got some videos backlog. But anyway, we're back. You can see I've got a new set, a new little thing I'm doing, inspired by somebody. Anyway, I'll let Mr. Claire say a few words as well, then we'll jump right into what we're going to talk about today.
Definitely, we're back, and it's a new year. So happy New Year officially to everybody. If in case Mr. Phil hasn't wished you guys happy New Year. It's been an interesting break. A lot has happened in between, so but we all made it. I won't go into the details, but I'm sure we'll do episodes to talk about what happened in between. But yeah, we're still here. COVID has not knocked anybody out. We're still here, and the numbers are all accounted for. Okay, you might be wondering where Rike is. So I'll let Mr. Phil handle that one. Mr. Phil, over to you. Has she been booted out? Where's Rike?
Rike is alive and well, but she's not going to be joining us today. I kind of told her about the recording too late because she had other plans. So, as it is, hey, we have plans and we have to honor them. So we said, you know what, we would excuse her for today. So you got myself and Mr. Claire, who are the two brothers. Anyway, today we want to look at this topic, the 40-year rock plan. Now, I'm going to say a few words and I'm going to pass it to Mr. Claire. Now, the 40-year rock plan, the first time I heard of it was, I was probably in my early 20s. I was fortunate to run into some business guys that, were talking about making extra income, home-based business and all that. And one of the things that they did was to break down the 40-year rock plan. And as a young man, when I saw that, I'm like, I don't want to get caught in this 40-year thing, And I realized very early that if you don't do something, that's the only path that is presented to you and offered to you. And it's almost like a train track going one way. Once you get on it, you're going on the track and you're going where that track goes, and we find out that so many people are on that track. Okay. And so what's that track? The track is obviously you've gone to school, you come out of university, you get your first job around 20. And between 20 and between 20 and 40, you will get married, you'll have children, you'll have a mortgage, and that locks you in the job cycle. So you cannot leave the job market, you cannot leave the rat race because you've got bills to pay, you've got a wife, you've got a mortgage, you've got, heavy things on you. So you have to stay on that track, Then you've got the politics at work, glass ceiling, you've got, everybody has some kind of barrier. I don't care who they are, even if you're a white guy, there are barriers because they might not like you, it might not be the right clique, you might not look right. Even English would discriminate against the Scottish. The Scottish would think they're better than the Irish. The Irish would think they're better than the Scottish and the English, So, they're glass ceiling to everybody and everything. So I don't want to hear when people just think it's just black or white or male, female and everything. They're glass ceiling. So you go into the work market and you actually physically experience those dynamics. And come on, it's really, really difficult to just break out of that and say, I want to go and do my own thing. I don't want this to be on this ladder? Mr. Clay, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I was widening my eyes when you were talking about, even when you're white. I was like, oh, it's going, it's coming with all the guns blazing. It's coming with all the guns blazing. Yes, well, 40-year rot plan. I remember saying that when I was 16, around 16, and I was still in school. And it was like a big shock to the system because nobody actually articulated what everybody was doing. We just knew people were going to work and coming back home. But there was nobody that took a step back and saw the lifespan of most people, And so when they broke it down, and you might be saying, where's the 40 years? You said 20, get your first job around 20, then you work to 40, that's 20 years. So where's the 40 years? 45 years, but the 45 years, like your work, that time, about 30 years ago, people were retiring at 65.
Mm-hmm.
So officially, you have to retire when you get to 65 years old.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your working life was between 20, roughly, between 20 to 40 to 65, which is 45-year rot plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but now, as we know, and in that time as well, people were working in one job, maximum maybe two, but there was no like every 2-3 years you're changing your career. There was none of that. It was like you going. It wasn't even like you're changing your career. You're changing your company. Because now we're used to changing companies. That time you walked into the Royal Mail, whichever one you find yourself walking into, you're stuck there. Back to you, Mr. Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Clay. Now, one of the things that thank you for correcting me. For some reason, I don't know why I call it 40-year rot plan. It's actually accurately, like Mr. Clay said, 45 years rot plan. And again, while I was in my flow, I didn't actually finish what I was saying there. I just stopped at 40. I wanted to say from 40 to 65, there's a decline in your value to the market and your earning ability. So from 20 to 40, you're like, yay! I'm earning. I'm needed, and you get what I'm saying. But the moment you cross 40, you start your ability to get promotions, your ability to go up on the ladder really gets capped at age 45, and from then on, it's woo, and that happens to everybody. Now, like Mr. Clay said, nobody broke it down to us like that before we heard it, and thankfully we heard it young. So, before they broke it down to us, all we saw was, like Mr. Clay said, people go to work, come back home, go to work, come back home, and really and truly, really getting that breakdown at that young age made us understand the overall picture. And I told myself, even at that young age, that, you know what, I don't want to end up all my life in this rot plan. I don't want to end up all my life, all I've had is a job. All I've had is, but again, it was the norm, like Mr. Clay said. It was the norm. It's like you go into a company like Ford, and it was a job for life. They will, okay, but when we say they will tie you down, they will tie you down with, some good stuff. Health benefits, insurances, all sorts of perks and benefits that it would not make sense for you to leave. But here is the deal that a lot of people miss or missed back then. It is that usually when you're working for a big company like that, chances are you're not building your own purpose. Chances are you're not going for your own dreams, and definitely, and this is the killer, chances are that you're not building your own equity. Yeah. And what do I mean by equity? That means that all those years call it 25, call it 30 years that people will have worked in that company. When they leave the job, they leave all that equity there. It belongs to the company. And what do I mean equity? I mean like the business that you've helped the company generate, the profit you've helped the company generate, the reputation that you've helped the company generate, the contacts that you've helped the company generate. You can't leave that company and say, oh, you know what, all the contacts that I brought, I'm taking it with you. You can't. It belongs to the company. So those are the equity that I'm talking about. And that is actually the real value. And like I said, the most important one again is the fact that a lot of people die without achieving their purpose. What are your thoughts, Mr. Clay?
Yeah. Part of the plan, that part of this 45-year road plan is that, you start 20 barely knowing anything. The company will invest a lot in you, and you'll be like put into all this training, programs, and you will learn educationally, you will learn professionally, you will grow as an employee of the company. And, after, you get to 45, if you're not in the board, one of the board members of the company, your only way is down, which means your income would not go higher. Now, when you're around 45, your life is not, I'm past 45. I'm just past 45.
Wow.
And I'm looking at myself and thinking, I couldn't imagine somebody telling me, okay, now you've reached your peak. That your only way now is down. Can you imagine that? So, so when I think at 45, you're still learning, you're still growing.
Yeah.
So when you get to 65, you're probably very mature in your career, in your activity. You actually are one of the most valuable assets they could probably have. But that's the time they will retire you, for somebody younger, because obviously, somebody will probably get somebody technology has moved on, obviously. So a lot of the things you're doing probably don't need you to do anymore. And, they could probably get somebody half your age for half the price, So, but if you were doing your own business in that time, or you were investing in yourself and building something on the side while you're working, where all that equity is not lost. It's like 10 years builds, the first 10 years of working, of establishing yourself, then the second 10 years is building on the previous years, and you continue to carry that on, till you get to, just like having a corner shop, or having a clothing company, any company, and as you grow, as the year goes on, you find that your company is maturing. And you'll get to a point where nobody can sack you in your own business. But in a job, it's either they sack you or you sack them. But somebody's getting sacked. That's for sure.
So someone's getting sacked, And what Mr. Claire said there, I'm in the position now that I have got my own program, and I'm still holding down a job. And I'm working towards where I don't need a job anymore. And that is where equity comes into its own, because like Mr. Claire said, I have built and invested many years, not only in a job, but in my projects, that I literally have equity in my reputation. I have equity in my track record. I have equity in relationships. I have equity in experience. What are your thoughts, Mr. Clay?
Definitely, because what you find is when you're in a job, you're working for somebody else, and you're not working for yourself. And when you look at that, who would you work hardest for? Somebody else or yourself?
Yourself.
So if you're working hardest for yourself, that means you care about what you're doing. If you're in a job, then all of a sudden, I'm not feeling 100% today, I'll take the day off sick. You know, there will be so many things that you give yourself a pass on. You know, you will not be so hard on yourself because after all, you're in a job, you know. But when you take the responsibility, which is that word again, responsibility of creating something and actually investing yourself in that thing, and you're working hardest for yourself, you will find that, you know, you grow faster. You will find that you are more the equity that you're building is even is expanding quicker, and you're bringing value to the marketplace, just like just Bezos and Elon Musk. The two billionaires. When you look at their lives, the years that nobody knew who they were just silent operators. But when they popped, all of a sudden now they're billionaires, and everybody's celebrating them.
Mm.
But from school, look at their lives all the way since they were born. School days, they were the geeks in school. Nobody really played with them because they were not the cool people. You know, all their teenage years, none of the women gave them an eye, you know, because they were not the cool people. You know, they started working as programmers. Programmers, come on, in the 80s, definitely nobody was checking for them.
You know.
And then years later, they're billionaires and everybody that wants to know them. Back to you, Mr. Phil.
That's actually a concept that we need to do a video on the fact that there was a time when it was your muscle that made you the big man. Now we're living in the time where it's your intellectual capacity and your ability to make lots of money that makes you the big man now. Isn't that interesting? That's another video. Anyway, coming back to equity, like I said, I am developing a program, and Mr. Clay is part of the program, and we're working together developing this program. And it's a program that encourages and helps people develop their own equity. You understand what I'm saying? Develop their own purpose. Okay, so it's an exciting time because, you know, the world as it is, you know, is changing. We've known that this change was coming for a long time. I've seen it for a long time. We used to speak about the fact that machines are going to displace human beings. Honestly, we couldn't even imagine to the level of how it would, in the sense that now we're seeing AI coming onto the scene and everything. And ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing we can do about it. AI is coming to stay, whether 5G, 6G, 7G, AI is coming to stay. You understand what I'm saying? And it's going to land. But what that would mean is that business cannot continue as usual. So that plan, go to school, get a degree, then get a job, then you'll be fine. It is completely dead in the water now. Let me actually be very bold to say this. I don't normally say this, and I've been, Mr. Clay is not new to Mr. Clay. But let me say it. If you're going to university right now, and you're having to get a student loan to go to university right now, you're making a big mistake. It is not the going to university that is the issue. It is the getting a student loan to go. That is the issue. Because there are people, it's almost like you're saying people drop off a cliff, and they continue to drop off a cliff, and their bodies and their, okay, let me use another illustration. There's so many people out there. You just have to go to YouTube now and type student loans. In America, in Australia, in the UK, they've got a degree, but they've got 70, 90, 120,000 pounds in debt. But they come into the market, and the job that they get, the mass will never allow them to pay back the loan. So It's a vicious circle. As a matter of fact, it's even that bad today that I see it as the modern day slavery conveyor belt. Because if you have a situation, a system where these people go and get a debt, and guess what? It is the only debt on earth right now that I believe cannot be written off. So they can write Amazon's debt off in the billions. They can write banks' debt off in the billions. They can write governments off debts off in the billions, but they will not write that student loan debt off. Mr. Kinley, have you heard of it?
Yes, I have. It's true. I mean, I can certainly say that you know, going to university is not the problem, like you said. It's the package that you're going with. Are you, and and also looking at what kind of income would you be making when you come out? Not the income they promise you. You must always take care of the worst case scenario first. Because once you take care of that's Mr. Phil saying, by the way. Shout out to Mr. Phil. If you take care of the worst case scenario first, that means you're good, right? So if the worst case scenario is you're going to be making 20 grand a year and your course is costing you over 4 years, 80 grand, you do the maths, and just to think as well, you're not going to be paying, not all your wages is going to go to your loan, by the way, because you still have to live. just to put that there. So you have to do the math and you have to see, okay, so when am I going to actually pay off this debt? And you find that most people out there are not the ones paying off their debts. It's their spouse that is paying the debts off for them. Hello, I'm speaking from experience.
If you're a guy, you have no chance. But if you're a lady, you may. That's another topic entirely, Mr. Kinley.
That's another video for another thing. So it's very important that when you're going to get these loans, you're looking down the line. In fact, the rate of technology is moving at such a fast rate now that if you pick a course, probably by the time you finish that course, it will be, totally out of sync. It would be expired in terms of the job you're training is already expired. So you need to look at, okay, what would the market need in 20 years time, in 30 years time? Let me start training for that now. So back to you, Mr. Phil.
Yeah, you said a lot there. Now, don't forget about this loan. Let me just finish on this loan. These loans, don't forget that there's interest as well.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people forget that it's not a static 80,000. There's a story of a lady in America that was paying her loan. I think she had like a £90,000 loan. Sorry, $90,000 loan for a course, and then she came out and was paying it down every month for, I believe, 10 years or 12 years like that. Then she decided to go and check how much is left. She found out what is left is 130,000.
Wow.
She nearly died. Honestly, that's how she started crying out. Because all those years, she wasn't even paying down the interest. And the interest had gone on top of interest and gone on top of interest, that she's like, I've been paying this thing for 12 years religiously, so I should have made a dent, at least on my 80 grand loan or 90 grand loan. She found out it's grown like 40%.
Wow.
People don't think about that. And again, don't forget that in today's world, take advantage of educating yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let the system, don't rely on only the system. I am living proof that if you are diligent and you want to really self-educate yourself, you can, and you won't die. Look, when I decided not to go to university. And when I decided not to go to university, I was like Mr. Claire said, the worst case scenario was I'm gonna die. That was the worst case scenario. And I said, you know what? If I'm gonna die because I didn't go to university, then I won't die. Now, some people will be like, oh, come on, Mr. Phil. Of course you won't die. Hey, when it's you, your neck is on the block. It won't feel that easy. You know, I wasn't feeling that easy, but to be honest, I'm glad that I chose to educate myself, because if anything, I don't think I missed anything. Mr. Claire, do you think I missed anything there? Be honest, as in, you know, good or bad.
Certainly you haven't. Well, it depends on what your life goal was, you know, because you started educating yourself, and that was your university degree.
Yeah.
That was your learning.
Yeah.
You did a lot of critical thinking over the years. Challenged the construct of what the life that we're all living. So, and I went through a similar path as well, you know, and so it's something that when you're on this personal development journey, you know, your education doesn't stop at 20.
No.
Like they tell you to, like, okay, now you stop education, now you start work. No, it doesn't stop that way. Your education actually starts at 20, you know, because now they've given you the basics. Now you need to start educating yourself like your life depends on it, because it actually does depend on it. And I think that's what we had, because we didn't have a safety net. We didn't have a fallback option. So we were reading those books, we were applying those books, we were, you know, developing ourselves, going to seminars and, you know, listening to tapes. And it was like our life depended on it, you know, and it did depend on it. And because we did those for about, you know, 30 years or so, you know, you will see that there's a lot of things that it has shaped who we became. You know, it's like you poke us, and what comes out is those investments that we've done over 30 years.
Definitely. Now, let me ask you a question, Mr. Clay. Would you say that the self information, self-taught, teaching yourself and gathering information is more important today than it was even when we started?
Oh, much more. Much more, because that time when we started, actually it was very expensive when we started, because you couldn't just get access to information. You couldn't just Google it. You couldn't just YouTube it. You had to go to a library to get the books. In fact, if you couldn't get the books in the library, you had to order them. And you you had to join like a book and tape club every month, you know. So the information was very, very, you know, it was very expensive. It was very expensive, and it was very scarce. You know, it wasn't easy to get to. But the information was gold dust. So I wouldn't say I wished, you know, I didn't go through that, because it gave me another, maybe that's something that I'm not even taking, but you know, I'm not taking into realizing in today's age that people have easy access to it, so they might not appreciate it.
Thank you. And so it's actually even more important. Now, why are we saying all these things, ladies and gentlemen? Let's bring it all around. We're saying this, that, look, in today's world, you will not hear what we're saying out there. Everything is out there, mainstream media. All they will tell you is that business as usual. They will still tell you, go to school, get your degree, and you'll be fine. That is a lie. You need to understand that you go to school, get your degree, but know that there's a fight out there waiting for you. Am I wrong, Mr. Clay?
Oh yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Okay, I'm not wrong. So what do I mean that there's a fight there waiting for you? The market is getting more competitive. So you have to have, yes, have your degree, but know that you have to be ready for the fight with information. And the good thing about it in your time now is that information, like Mr. Claire said, is way cheaper. So I don't care where you are. I know we've been doing videos and we've been focusing on Nigeria, or we say, yeah, because you guys, a lot of people need the information in Nigeria. But I don't care where you are in the world, okay? Information is like Mr. Claire said, gold dust right now. What kind of information? How do I personally develop myself? What do leaders think about? Get a book on leadership. Read, like we keep saying, How to Influence and Influence People, Magic of Thinking Big, Think and Grow Rich. Read things like that. Have a discussion with people. Develop your team of people, okay, that you would challenge each other together. It is far more important nowadays. And the bottom line is that we're talking about the 40-year road plan. Look, there's nothing more sad than you going through the whole of your life in the road plan. At the end, you'll just be given a gold watch and bye-bye. But guess what? Your bill still doesn't stop. Mr. Claire said it was 45. I had to calculate and say, yeah, you know what, it is, But I'm 50. I'm 50 this year. I don't feel like that I'm at the end of my days. I actually feel that I feel better now than I did before now. I see more potential for me now than I did before. So if I'm honest, I see me going through 40, 55, 60, 70, and I'm still going to be like, let's go. I look at someone like Sadhguru. As long as we take care of our bodies and we're not lackadaisical about keeping our body in shape and being fit, man, we can live for a long time. And so if you're going to live for a long time, are you just going to live for the next, the later years of your life, and then you are now scrapped for money because you are now retired? That is what people need to think about, okay? No, your trajectory has to go like this. And this is what I intend for myself. And I intend it I wish it for you too. I can't intend it for you. I can wish it for you. But we have to start thinking about going only on an upward trajectory, and nothing should stop it. But one of the things that, practically, like I said before, practically, we're not just leaving it to chance. You can't leave it to chance. We're putting things in place. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know why the recording or how the recording stopped suddenly, but please bear with us. See you next time.